Welcome to the Scottsdale Vibes Podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Haygood. Each and every week, we bring you new and exciting episodes featuring the people, places, and events of Scottsdale. And of course, I love to start out with one of my sponsors. So let's just dive into it. We have Sean Shackleton, the Shackleton Group. Right before we got on here to record, we were just laughing at the market because I was like, so what's going on? And she's like, yeah. I mean, what I say today, we're going to predict, and then it's going to be like karma's going to turn it around or something.
No predictions. I'm only going to tell you what's happening right this minute, because that's the thing. You can't predict this market. I mean, we can look at the data, we can look at all that stuff, but it's not. We can't. You just can't predict it.
So low inventory and higher prices are going on right now. I've had a couple of friends that were like back into like bargaining and you know, with multiple offers going on right now. So talk to me. What's going on? Because this is not typical for this time of year in Scottsdale.
Well, I mean, we're still in our season.
What is typical, though? We just said that.
I know. And I think the thing really, now that you say that, and I say this all the time, I think the thing really that everybody has to realize and remember, the last 2 years that we've come out of have not been normal. Right. And so I think everybody's taking this like hard shift on, wait, the market's doing what? And what? Wait, why? And it is hard because we've just come out of completely, non-normal markets with historical low interest rates, historically low inventory, and historically high prices. And then we saw everything kind of shift, and that all happened last year. After May when we saw our prices peak, but people didn't really feel it until June or July. Okay. And then they were like, oh my gosh, everything's falling off a cliff. And it wasn't falling off a cliff, but it was shifting fast. And I think that's when everyone's PTSD really kicked in from 2000.
More so than we've been having, yeah.
Totally, right? Which is understandable, right? Because 2008 happened, and although it was a long time ago, it wasn't that long ago in everyone's memory. But it has shifted again. I mean, our prices stopped falling in December.
Okay. Oh, gosh. That's a really long time.
Yeah. Our prices stopped falling in December. So our median price point was at $415 in December, $415 in January, $415 in February.
Okay.
March and April, they've been climbing. So we were at $420 in March. We were at $420. And April so far, I mean, we're only a little bit into it, but we're already at $422.
Okay.
So our prices are starting to climb back up, which nobody wants to believe.
No.
Or
want.
Or want. I get it. Totally get it. But the thing, too, is that our inventory is not going up. We have more inventory leaving the market than we have coming on. So we're actually in an inventory deficit when you look at every single day how many homes come on the market versus how many homes go off the market. So people are out there buying. And I mean, our interest rates, that's really a predictor of why and when we're going to see our market heat up. Yeah. Right. So again, we got really, really spoiled with really low interest rates. And now they shot up. We were at 7, but in a week they dropped a point. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
It's a lot. And now we're back. Today I checked it and I think we're at like 6.3. Okay. 6.4. And jumbo is at 6. FHA is in like the high 5s. Okay. So, I mean, it's come down, and if you're still in a price point where you are doing seller concessions to do a rate buy down, you're buying down your rate potentially into the 4s.
These are all good things I like to hear.
Right.
But see, this is where it matters to like know who you're working with to understand, because someone like me who just comes in, I see these numbers, I'm like, that's it, I'm out.
Right.
But there's ways. I
mean, I have a client right now. We made an offer on a house for her a day ago. We've gotten a counter offer, and it scared her, right, because of where the counter came back. And immediately I said, don't just make a rash decision. We need to sit down and we need to look at the numbers. We need to get the lender on the phone, and let's really talk about how much does this affect your payment? Because forget about the dollar amount your loan is. Let's look at what your monthly payment is. Because if you can do the monthly payment, that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
Who cares what the loan amount is?
It's all about, yeah. So what are we, typically in the summertime, our market slows down. We have a little bit more come up.
It's shifted. So normally our season, we used to see big swings. So we would start to see a swing up in January, beginning of February, and then we would start to see a slowdown in May, June, sometimes April, May, June, because it just started to get hot. People started to go away. The second home owners started to go back home. You know, their guests stop coming because it starts getting hot. Yeah. And then in October, we'd start to see kind of that uptick again, and then November, December, because of the holidays all around there, it would start to slow down, and then that was our normal kind of swing. So we'd start to see low inventory and kind of low activity in the summertime. Even before COVID, that shifted a lot because the internet makes it so different to buy homes now. You know, I can't tell you how many, even before COVID happened.
But not helpful in a way.
Well, I mean, it depends, right? So, I mean, even before COVID, I was selling homes via FaceTime. You know, I would FaceTime people through a house because they just couldn't get here, and we'd make an offer, and sometimes they would come in for the inspection. Sometimes they wouldn't. It just would depend. And they would buy a house. You know, then COVID happened, and I think the number of homes that I sold via FaceTime was crazy. I have one client that literally to this day, like I sold a house to them via FaceTime. They never saw it. I sold it for them again. They never stepped foot in the house. They never saw it. Ever. Ever.
Must be nice. Do you think that because of Scottsdale is more that high-end market, that's kind of helping our steady growth here? Or
No, I think it's jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's jobs. The growth is happening here because of the jobs.
Okay.
So the job thing, it's because there's different industries that are coming in.
Okay.
So before the 2008 housing crisis, we really had only about 3 or 4 different job opportunities, big job opportunities. It was construction, hospitality, and low-end call centers.
Yeah.
That was really it. Those were the 3 main
employment
opportunities for people when they came here. And so when the market crashed, hospitality goes away because people don't have money to travel, and construction gets killed because no one's buying houses, so they don't need construction workers. And at that time, they were overbuilding. So then all of that stopped, right? And we've come out of that.
Yeah.
And right now, we are at a deficit in how many homes we have on the market. And this is the thing that people have a really hard time wrapping their head around. We are low in our inventory partly because the builders pulled back so far and never ramped back up. And then COVID happened and supply chain and the whole thing so that they couldn't really ever get really ramped up.
Yep.
So we don't have enough supply purely because we just don't have enough homes.
My husband works in construction. That's what he's told me. He
Yeah.
was like, because construction was brought to a halt on the housing crisis.
Yes.
And then they started to slowly, because people were scared
Yes.
to get back into it. And then COVID happened with supply chains. He's like, we're 5-6 years behind.
Yes.
Building houses
Yes.
is what we are, even as a nation, more or
Yes.
less here
Yes.
in the valley.
Total 100% true. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, it's not just here. It's
Yeah.
across the United States.
Yeah.
We don't have enough homes for people to buy.
Yeah.
You know, and then take into account that through COVID and the low interest rates and
Right.
people locked in a 2.75 or a 3% mortgage rate, and even if they wanted to move,
Mm-hmm.
unless they have a huge upswing in the amount of equity that they have in their house, and they could basically take all that equity and put it in another house and keep their payment the same,
Yeah.
they might not be moving.
Well, that's a big thing, I think. I mean, my brother-in-law has that going on. He's like, I'm not moving or
Right.
selling because my interest rate's so low right now. And that, I mean, I get
Who blame?
that.
Right? I know. I can't blame people.
No, not at all.
At all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just have to look at everything and go, okay, you know, because, I mean, there are people out there that bought that are now in a different position in their life.
Yeah.
Maybe they've had a child, they've gotten married, or they've gotten divorced, or you know, somehow their life has changed and they would like to move. So again, if they've had a huge upswing in the amount of equity that they have in their house, it's really important to look at, okay, if I spend X, but I take all my equity and put it here, is that going to make my payment the same? And am I going to be happier over the long run for having a bigger house, smaller house, whichever direction you're going? But if it's not, and you go, you know what, I need to stay put, I need to stay here, then stay there for a little while. Things will shift again. Yeah. I'm not saying the market's not crashing. I'm not.
Right, and it hasn't.
No.
And no one's predicting that.
Well, there's a lot. If you look on YouTube, I call them the crash bros. They're all out there telling me that the market's going to crash, and that, especially Phoenix, like, our inventory has surged. They're late. The inventory surged last year. It is not surging right now. So be careful about what you're watching.
The only YouTube channel you should be watching besides Scottsdale Vibes is, of course, Sean Shackleton, because she has all the real estate news. Sean, thank you so much for always being on top of it, most importantly, being open and honest with us. And like you said, look at what your monthly payment is going to be, because that will determine what you can afford.
Yeah.
Don't look at the whole price.
Well, and
Figure
I mean,
it
you
out.
just have to look at your situation.
Yeah.
Everybody's situation is different. It's not the right time for everyone to buy right now, but it might be.
Well, you know who to call if you need more. Sean Shackleton. Again, all of her information is in the description of this episode, as well as online newsletters and more. You can find her really all over the place. I love it. Sean, thank you so much. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more. Buying a home can be scary and sometimes frustrating, but all of that can go away with the right realtor. And that's where Sean Shackleton with the Shackleton Group is here for you. Sean has over 25 years experience in real estate. She's here to get you what you want and won't settle for less. She's experienced, knowledgeable, and understands this market, which these days is always changing. Take the stress out of your next home purchase by calling Sean at 480-734-7277. You can also find her at theshackletongroup.com. I have the privilege of sitting here with Peter Newlin. He is with Birdcall as the Chief Experience Officer. I love this title. I kind of want that in life. I just want to have a life title, the Chief Experience Officer. As you all know, Birdcall is here on Scottsdale and Shea. They are an all-natural chicken restaurant. They are so good. Seriously, me and my family go there often. The most important thing, I think, besides just feeding us healthy, is they are really a part of the community. From the artwork, from the spices, the bread, everything you get is here in the Valley. And I think that says so much about who they are as a company. So, Peter, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us. I just want to start with you basically, like, how did you get involved? Because you're one of the co-founders of Birdcall too. So tell me about your want and need and desire to find a restaurant like this that stands out so much.
Thank you for having me. First off, super excited to be here. I went to college in Charleston, moved out west about 14 years ago. You know, I thought I wanted to be in the kind of the ski and the outdoor industry. But my story in hospitality started one day when I was biking back home, going home from the school. And I biked past this little 40-seat burger restaurant. Park Burger, and it was the first of the Gestamo restaurants, which was the organization that created the Birdcall concept before it continued to grow. And I remember sitting in this little 40-seat burger restaurant, and I looked to my left and I looked to my right, and everybody was just feeling the vibe and having a good time. And I remember just feeling truly special for that hour that I was in this burger restaurant. And it kind of really clicked with me, right? And it could have been the best restaurant in the world and it wouldn't have made any difference. I was where I needed to be. I was getting that moment of peace, that break, feeling that sense of community, feeling the light beam that this restaurant had on the neighborhood, this beautiful Platt Park neighborhood in the heart of Denver, Colorado. And I mean, I was like, this is magical. The next day I ended up applying at that restaurant, Park Burger, and I don't cook. I legitimately can't cook anything. And, my partner, Jean, I do not eat. It's a big win for me in 2023 because I have cooked one meal in my house. And
was it more than like a peanut butter jelly sandwich?
Actually, I don't even think I was like the primary chef on the meal. I think I did some cutting. But point is, my partner, Jean-Philippe Failio, he's a classically trained chef, has a background at the French Culinary Institute, worked at some of the best restaurants around the country and kind of settled in Denver. And so it's always been this just amazing partnership, right? Because we're focusing on different things. And we really, at Birdcall, we really believe that the details make the difference. And there's so many ways to enhance the hospitality experience and have so many different people focusing on so many different areas. It really can make the brand special. But it all started right there, right? That idea of like, wow, hospitality is so much more than, do you want fries with that? It really is an experience that can make your day better. And, there's a great book right now, Unreasonable Hospitality, and they keep talking about it and I keep bringing it up, but it's like, people come to restaurants on their worst day and they come to restaurants on their best days. And it's really our job to just, whatever way you interact with the brand it's for our job to make your day just a little bit better, to either accelerate that happiness or try our best to make you feel a little bit better. And that's what, restaurants can be the heartbeat of a community. And, we have a lot of work to do, right? And, being new in Arizona, it's hard, right? It's our first restaurant outside of Colorado. And we've made a ton of mistakes. But one thing I can say with 100% positive is that we're learning from those mistakes, and we are so committed to Scottsdale, Phoenix, and Arizona. And we didn't go there to open a satellite, right? We moved there to build a new home. And there's so many people from Arizona that have inspired us for years, from Fox to Lauren Bailey. I mean, we just, love what they have done for our industry across the country. They are like I mean, I literally look at them and I'm like, I love you. I don't know Fox, but Laura and I have had the pleasure to meet, and she just inspires me every moment I get to talk to her. But it's so fun to be in Phoenix with that much inspiration around. So I'm also a horrible person to have on a podcast because I rant and I do not ever remember the question. So we
answered it.
But
We're good at. Well, you talked about. I love your. Let's talk about like your title, and because you talked about the experience at that restaurant as really what was a game changer for you, Peter. Scottsdale's the first place you opened outside of Colorado. That says a lot about Scottsdale as a community and bringing that experience to us. So, what is it about Scottsdale that really spoke to Birdcall and you all? That's like, this is what we need to open our first place at.
I think part of it was driven by like, let's go be with some of the best. I mean, you have Phoenix and Scottsdale have some of the best restaurants in the world. And part of it was driven by like, hey, we want to go learn. And we don't look at other restaurants as competitors. And we have a belief that, all ships rise with the tide and we should all learn from each other to make each other better. And it's what I've always really cherished about the restaurant community. Denver is very strong. Scottsdale is very strong. Phoenix is very strong, but there's such an opportunity to learn from each other. And, behind the doors of all these restaurants, typically the restaurant people are coming together and they're being like, wow, that was hard. Now, how do we become better? But, we also had members of the Birdcall team that, went to school in Arizona and really had a deep rooted history in the Scottsdale market. And so, of course, taking the advice of great friends, great mentors, and great leaders within the organization, it was a pretty easy decision to say, okay, let's move to Arizona.
When it comes to family-friendly dentistry, there's only one place in Scottsdale, and that's Arizona Center for Laser Dentistry. Teeth cleaning, innovative, pain-free laser dentistry, teeth whitening, root canals, and really any dental need you may have, Dr. Rob and his staff at Arizona Center for Laser Dentistry can handle it all. They're more than just a dentist, they really are family. We've been going there for over 3 years, and my family loves them. When your kids get excited to go to the dentist, you know you've got a good one. Dr. Rob DeVito is the only dentist in town that can handle it all. Give him a call at 480-990-1905. You can find him on the web at drdevito.com. And don't forget to tell him you heard him on the podcast. I love what you all do because you really focus on the community that you're in. And I think that's so incredibly important to success. And it just makes Birdcall a part of the community. And like you said, it's not just a satellite restaurant. Like Birdcall Scottsdale is unique to Scottsdale and features Scottsdale, from the artists that painted on your, the murals on your walls, and even the posters that y'all have hanging in the bathrooms are from the concerts that happened around here. The little details like that, don't go unnoticed. So we do feel special. It doesn't feel like a satellite. Why is that so important to the experience that Birdcall makes? Because I think that says a lot about who you are as a company as well.
Yeah, and I've got a really special role, working at Birdcall, and and I don't know. We've always had a belief that if a restaurant doesn't exist to serve the community it has a privilege to serve, then why does it exist, right? And I think there's, I truly believe, and we truly believe in the power of hospitality and the human connection and what a restaurant can do when it's when all of those are in harmony, and it's doing what it was meant to do. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have bad days. That doesn't mean that you have operational challenges. That doesn't mean that you miss on messaging, and that doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. But that overall, that ability to reach those details all together is just so important. Related to community, and I can speak for myself. For me, it goes back to when, I remember when my partner Jean-Philippe let me design the first restaurant. Right, I opened a restaurant in Parkburger Rhino, or no, it was called Parkburger Rhino, right, and it was in the heart of a beautiful arts district in the heart of Denver, Colorado, right to the north side of the city. And first off, I don't know what I was doing, but for some reason I put a bunch of jerseys in the restaurant in an arts district. So I already made a mistake, but I was like 25 years old. And, I put TVs everywhere, and I'm like, yeah, people love sports jerseys and TVs. It's going to be a home run. And it was probably, when I look back, it was probably the most incredible lesson. Right. And I think at one point there was a campaign that was "Get the Bros Out of Rhino," which is pretty wild, but it was such a great lesson, right? And quickly the jerseys came down and art went up. And but what was even more powerful that was the connection to the artist, the storytelling, and better understanding their story and better understanding the importance of a restaurant and its role in the community to share those stories. And how can now we be that conduit for, for artists, for music, for food, for sound, for touch, for interior design, right? There's so many elements that make a restaurant truly special. Now, of course, the food is the core, right? And that's why, we have this incredible chef constantly creating new recipes for Birdcall. But my focus has been, wait, what are all these different ways that it can kind of engage the community and share stories and really be a place of beauty and enlighten the community has a privilege to serve, right? And so it was so fun, what once was jerseys on a wall, which now are in our office because we're like, well, we built all these, we
got
have
them.
these
Might as well
jerseys
use them.
that say Park Burger, so now they're in our office. But it was so cool, right? Because what started with jerseys led to charity golf tournaments, music festivals, Love and Special Sauce and the Whalers and Robert Randolph and these amazing local bands coming together, and all these art exhibits that we put together. And what was so powerful about that story was how much that filled our cup, and how much we really just saw how powerful a restaurant could be. So, I look back and Get the Bros Out of Rhino was probably one of the most impactful things in my entire career. And really was what Birdcall started with. It was like, we have to start by serving this community first. You can't push a restaurant on a community, right? You can't push anything on a community. You need to learn what's important to the community and then build a restaurant to serve them and be a place that they can be their community gathering place. And there's a lot of brands that do it super, super well. And, it's in the center of our heart. And so that mixed with being inspired for brands like Patagonia and 1% for the planet. And we're like, well, we love that commitment. How can we have a similar commitment?
And that's what I was going to ask.
So
That's what I was going to ask you next. Do the 1% for the community, where you give back and part of your sales and stuff. Which y'all really are like Birdcall Scottsdale. So that's how the idea came about. It was like your Colorado-based theme, and you're like, oh, we could do this too.
Yeah. So I've always, since my grandfather gave me my first pair of stand-up shorts, Patagonia shorts. I've always been infatuated with that organization. And I just always have. The cool thing about building a brand is there's so many people to be inspired by, right? And, literally a brand is the collection, a restaurant is a living, breathing thing. And it can constantly learn. It can constantly get better. Just because you had a bad experience yesterday doesn't mean you'll have the best experience tomorrow, right? We make mistakes, just like we grow. And that was always so cool about Birdcall is, we looked at these brands that we loved and we're like, what I love about Patagonia is 1% is he's like, any brand in the world can use it, right? It's about this commitment to our environment. And for us, we looked at that and we're like, yes, respect. And this is how we're going to do it. And, and that's being done through school fundraisers and all these amazing things. And, the 1% program, along with the help of some of our amazing partners and investors during the heart of COVID, Birdcall was able to serve 250,000 meals across the state of Colorado and into rural regions to focus on food insecurity. And it's just allowed these really, really cool memories. And hopefully that's just the beginning, right? Because as we grow, we believe our impact must grow. And so it'll be really fun to see how the next group of leaders at Birdcall take the program. But I don't know, going back to the beginning, it's like, yes, there's reasons why it makes sense, but it means everything if you get to the root of like,
the purpose.
Let's do rad. Let's do rad.
That goes back to what you said, Peter. The vibe at that first burger joint you went to means everything, and that's kind of where the name of this podcast came from. It's like Scottsdale vibe. There's so many, but the vibe to one person is not the same to the person sitting next to you, but you're there for the same reason. You love it. So I want to ask you, Peter, what is your favorite Scottsdale vibe?
My favorite Scottsdale vibe. I hate to be the one to say it, but I always love going to Toca Madera and getting that incredible. I think when you can get a flamethrower at your table on a Tuesday night, it's just like that. I just leave and I'm like, I feel incredibly cool, even for a moment. But I think all restaurants are the same. I mean, when you go to the original Henry and you sit in there, and I mean, it's just I've just always kind of just cherished that, going to different restaurants throughout Scottsdale. But I think for me, Birdcall, the whole goal is how do we incorporate these elements that are being done at some of the coolest, trendiest restaurants across the world, and then bring them into a more affordable price point, right? And that's always been, the internal mission is like, how do we make natural foods accessible, right? How do we provide love and joy through these foods? And so taking elements, and that's how, what originally started with murals on the exterior, that's how it was like, man, I love the beautiful artwork that's being put into, Hillstones around the country. Why can't we do the same thing here? And, I was in Dallas once and I went into a bathroom and I was like, man, I just put the lotion on this cute boutique hotel, and man, my hand, I just feel luxury, right? And luxury, sometimes there's no price associated with the word luxury, right? In the definition. And I remember leaving the bathroom and I'm like, man, I love the power of lotion and scent. We have green tea and peony in our bathroom. And if you put that lotion on and if you don't feel, beautiful, then, put it on again, because it's like, those are the moments that create the vibe of least of what we're trying to do. And then, maybe the scent needs to change, or maybe we need to adjust the recipe on certain things, but just that whole idea of that moment, that vibe, that good sound. You always put a lot of time and attention to curating good playlists, put a lot of time and attention to sourcing local partners, right? So that, you're eating noble bread when you go to Birdcall, right? You're drinking local beers on draft.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And that's Scottsdale, right? That is luxury. That is one of a kind. That is uniqueness to us. And that's what makes us feel special. And Birdcall does a great job. So, well, I'm so happy that we're the first place outside of Colorado. Huge Scottsdale welcome to you all. It seems to be going very well for you. You all are a huge part of my son's school as well. So thank you for that and all you continue to do. And way to go on the cool title, by the way. I think I'm going to just name myself that, make my kids call me that from now on, the Chief Experience Officer in this family.
That's what you do. That's what you do with someone on the team that you really don't know what
to do with them.
Yeah. So it's either a good thing or a very bad thing. I'm undecided, but I can put it as, it's definitely fun to be working on such a special brand. And, the other thing too, at least, from our side, my email is just Peter@Birdcall. We're constantly looking for feedback. We're constantly looking for how we can be a better member of the community. And we're committed to Scottsdale and Phoenix. We've never closed a restaurant and have no intention to, right? It's like, we're here to be committed to you and to serve you in the best way possible. And we're going to, our promise is we're going to keep getting better and we're going to keep learning from our mistakes, but totally stoked to spend a lot more time down there. That's for sure.
Well, you better do it now while we still have the beautiful season and y'all are filled with snow up there in Colorado. So come visit us. We're ready for you. Thank you, Peter, so much. Thank you for, respecting us and being a part of this community, because you at Birdcall and your whole team very much are. So I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
When it comes to protecting you, your family, and all your assets, you need to have someone that you can trust. And that's Jeremy Mueller of State Farm Insurance. Jeremy Mueller has lived in Scottsdale his whole life. How can anyone else know your needs more than someone who's been here and seen it all? Jeremy and his team are always ranked in the top % at State Farm. He cares, he's knowledgeable, and most importantly, he's always available. Don't believe me? Give him a call at 480-515-5223 or find him at jeremymueller.com. Have fun, Scottsdale, keep vibing, and I'll see you around town.